You're listening to the Selfdoubt podcast, where we empower women of faith to identify, acknowledge, and accept their doubts and limits and beliefs in order to give birth to their God-given purpose. Join me and sometimes some of my friends on our journey as we remind you that you are not alone. I'm Felicia Wallace, and together we will find our fears and slay them. Welcome back to another episode of the Selfdoubt podcast. I am here with Keisha Shields. She is the creator of She Will Not Be Silenced. She's also the host of the She Will Not Be Silenced podcast. Hey, Keisha, how you doing?
Hey now.
How's it going? How are you? Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. We were just talking about the fact that we've been trying to do this for quite some time. We just kept the schedules. We're not mixing, and I'm grateful that we're able to do this now.
Absolutely. You know what? I am doing well. I'm really well. And thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm so glad we were able to get this scheduled this year.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy to be on. Thank you.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Absolutely. So a little bit about me. I'm a girl who was born in the South, born in Georgia, raised here, until I became an adult. And so dealing with a lot of the Southern things, a lot of people navigate. But my background is throughout almost my whole life, I was the one who spoke up for almost everyone and everything. If someone had an issue, they knew that I would speak up on their behalf and most likely get the result they were hoping for.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of navigated my life that way, speaking up for everyone but myself. And so that's important because that kind of takes you on the trajectory of where I went. And I was a young C-suite executive. I was in my 20s, navigating being the only Black girl, only brown girl, the only girl, period, in the C-suite and all of the things that come along with that. And my journey found its way into me feeling like I lost my voice. I lost the power of my voice. The person who used to be the one that spoke up for everyone and all things couldn't find the courage to stand up for the thing that mattered the most, and that was her.
Wow.
And so my journey from the C-suite into my own consulting and company was pretty much stemmed from that.
Wow.
And here I am now.
Yeah, that is awesome. Like, it's so interesting, right? Like, what do you think was the thing that had you go from being the voice for everybody to realizing that you lost it?
You know what? All the way real, it was this whole idea of like being stereotyped and stigmas. Like a lot of some things in my personal life kept me from kept my two worlds separate. So I had work Keisha and I had life Keisha.
We know all about
yes. Yes,
alter
and the
ego,
two
right?
worlds rarely collided, right?
Right.
And so a lot of it came from that because I was excellent, right, in my role. Excellent, high performer, high results getter, just compassionate, a fan favorite, if you will.
That's all right.
But people only knew what they knew about me as Keisha, the person in the role, right? You know how like a lot of times at people's jobs, they'll have like their coworker friends and they hang out for dinner and all that. No. I didn't do any of that. You know what I mean? And so people, I think it was the curiosity of who is this person? Like, we don't really know much about her. You know what I mean? And so for me, wanting to protect the sacred things that were most important to me, my relationship, my way of life, all of these things kept me. I didn't want to be stereotyped. Like if people knew certain things, I didn't want to be stigmatized. And so I made sure that who they knew was excellent, top of her game, all of that, you know what I mean, if you will, because in my personal life, it wasn't necessarily like that.
Right.
I was more, I was a people pleaser. I was raised to put others always before yourself.
Wow.
And I talk about how, you know, how in the beginning I mentioned how I was the one when everybody knew they had a problem or they needed some results, they would come to me, even as a
Yeah.
kid, right? I spoke up for everyone but myself,
Mm.
but myself. And because I was taught that that was selfish.
Wow.
And so I navigated my life always putting others, like if they had an issue, helping them to resolve it, even if it was at my expense, you
Mm.
know, all of those things. And so in my personal life, that's who I was. I didn't want to be that at work, right? I didn't want to be, here I am, the Black girl, you know, in this all white male, you know, dominated C suite, and I'm only
Mm.
in my 20s at the time, right? You
Yeah.
know, and it's like all the things, like I had to be powerful and this and this. And it's just like for me, the stereotypes and stigmas was the thing that really made it challenging for me, and what ultimately made me recognize that I had lost my voice even at work. And that's when I knew, like, okay, something's wrong here, because this is where I'm supposed to be boisterous
Right.
and, you
Yeah.
know, all of the things. But it was that, it was not wanting my worlds to collide, not wanting people in my business,
Mm.
you know, all of that. I'm very introspective, very to myself, you know, and that just didn't work, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of where that whole idea of it came from. And also not advocating for myself for a good
Mm.
bit of my life,
Wow.
because when I was being taken advantage of and manipulated in the corporate world, I didn't have the courage to speak up for myself, because I thought, oh, well, I'm going to lose my job.
Wow.
And my job was my livelihood, right? That was how I
Yeah.
supported my family. That was like, you know, all of the things. And so those things played like a major role in that.
Yeah, no, that is so like everything you just said is probably every woman listening to this is just like, that is me, like you
Yes, it
can't wear your
is.
hair a certain
Mhm.
type of way. You can't,
Yes.
talk a certain type of way. You can't, you have to
Mhm.
show up differently in these settings because you don't know how people are going to take you.
Yep.
I am a person with locks at the present time. And like, I remember coming to work one day, being a young leader. I think it was like my 28th birthday or something. And I dyed my hair red. Now, if I have to admit it to myself, it was bright. It was like Elmo red. That was
Okay.
not my intention, right? It wasn't my intention for it to get that bright. But I mean, I'd already spent my money. It is what it is, and I know it'll grow out, right? I get to work, and my AVP is an older white lady, and we have this meeting, and she kind of walks up to me. She like looks me up and down. She's like, "That's interesting," and so I'm like, "What the
Mm.
crap?" So then my director at the time comes to me and she's like, "Is there anything you can do about your hair?" I'm like what? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh.
first of all, it's
Uh-huh.
natural. I just got it done. Like, no, I can't do anything about it. Like, I'm going to, it just has to grow out. But that moment right there, the next 10 years being in that position, I wore brown hair, light brown hair. It would never go
Mhm.
over a certain color. I
Yes.
always I and on top of that, like, we don't realize that the things that we hold are like held hostage by, we pass on to other people. So then I used to tell my staff, like, what color you about to get? Because they were all young Black women. I'm like, no, you can't wear that color. That's too bright. That's too this. That's too that.
Right.
And I would be
Mhm.
like, I didn't realize it until now. Like, girl, if they wanted to wear their hair. Now, one time a girl came in there, she looked like, I turned around, like, what in the whole Charlie Baltimore is going on? Like, and she said the same thing. I didn't mean for it to be that color. It just came out that way. And I was just like, I've been there. Like, that was all I could say because I had been there, but that those type of things, like you said, like, I was worried because I felt like I was stereotyped in that moment. I felt
Mhm.
like I did not want that for them because I knew they wanted to grow. Is that at that point I was already a leader in the organization, and it was such a thing where it was just like, no matter what I do, like, you're still going to look at me a certain type of way if I don't dress a certain way or if I carry myself a certain type of way. And that used to, it's draining, right?
Yes, it
Because you have to
is.
wear that mask every single day. And
Mhm.
people are doing it every single day, and they have to continue to do it even during this time, right? Like you on virtual calls, like you still have to show up a certain type of way because of the expectation of other people. But um which is one of the reasons why I love now being an entrepreneur, because I can be myself. Like the first thing I did was dye my hair purple. As soon as I left my job, I was like, I
Hey
got to,
now.
I need some color. I need
Mm-hmm.
something that's gonna pop for me, And but yeah, like that whole mask that you say that you
Mm-hmm.
wear for that period of time, and not wanting your worlds to collide because of what we think is going to be the consequence of that, right? Because we really don't know, but
Right.
it's the fear of what could happen if they knew who I really was, right?
Absolutely.
That
And the when you hear that back, it's so sad. You know what I'm
it is, right?
saying? So sad. Like my heart dropped. I'm like, oh, she's talking about me. Right. Like it's true though.
Hmm.
It's true because, especially when like I'm at a point in my life where I am in love with who I am. And to
Yes.
think that this person would still be trying to conform into a standard that was never meant for her to fit
Come
into.
on, come on.
You know what I mean, right? It's like when you look back at it, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
and it's really challenging because you have some people, for example, who they're not entrepreneurial, like that's not their calling, it's not
Hmm.
their vision. And so for them, working for others or working in corporate or wherever they are is what they're going to be doing until they retire.
Correct.
And so sometimes my heart feels a little sad because it's like, how do you navigate that when this is who you're going to be, needing to conform in some way, needing to try to fit into an expectation that was never designed for people like
Mm.
you, right?
Mm.
But having to navigate that because that is the way it is wherever you are working is really, really hard. And that's why I'm a big proponent of women, especially when it comes to self doubt, is really getting comfortable navigating other people's opinions because there's so much you can do from a personal standpoint to remediate that.
Yeah.
And those things will cross over into your work life, into your business life. And I think so many times we do it backwards. Like we try to make it work at work,
Hmm.
but then right, it's like you have to make it work for you in
Yep.
your life. And then as you're being genuine, as you're being authentic, it will naturally spill over into your work. Because even when I left corporate and when came into my own business, I still brought those same fears
Come
with
on.
me. I'm not one of those. I'm a realist. I am
Yes.
not one of those who started my business and didn't give a about what
Hmm.
anybody thought. Not
Hmm.
me. I cared about what everyone thought. If I look a certain way, if I say a certain thing, if I don't
Hmm.
say it, if I mean it was rough.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the same culture that did not work for me, I brought into my own business. Why? Because that is what I knew.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. That resonates with me so much because being in the, first 2 years of this, there's so many things that you were accustomed to, things that have
Mm-hmm.
become a habit, things that become second nature to you that after a while, you may have questioned it when it first happened and felt some type of way. But once you're just like, okay, well, this is what I got to do to keep going. This is what I got to do to keep paid and keep like you said, this is how I provide for my family.
Mm-hmm.
You adapt to it, and you saying that you brought those old habits into your entrepreneurial journey and your business is absolutely right. A lot of times you do take some things from your corporate job and you bring it because it's experience, but you also take the bad things too. It doesn't just
Absolutely.
immediately disappear, which is a part of like this self doubt journey journey is that you have to go through the process to figure out what are the things that are no longer true. What are the things that are
Absolutely.
no longer what they, what they currently are. What do I need to change about me so I can truly walk in my purpose? And you have to rid yourself of those things. But before you can do that, you have to do exactly what you and I just did right now in this like quick little second. It's like real recognize, acknowledge, and admit those things, right? Like
Yes.
once you know that those are the things that are holding you back, like I knew it was. I mean, even if you think, like you said, it's so sad. It's like it's the simplest thing. It's your hair, right? Like
Yes.
it's
Yes.
hair, But your hair, a lot of people, your hair defines you. It defines who you are. And I'm a big person. I'm like, child, your hair grow back. Do whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to do with it. Like, unless it is, you have some, like health conditions where you are having issues with your hair. But I'm like, for the most part, so many things, but it's so tied to your identity that when
Mm-hmm.
somebody diminishes it just by the color, it's like, oh, you start to rethink yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, as especially as African American women, we tie a lot of things to our worth and our value that
Yes.
really have nothing to do with that. But in those moments when somebody says something about you that you receive it in a way sometimes that, child, this is, listen, like you say, you can feel it. Like I was like, oh my gosh, am I getting teared up? Like it's
I'm
just,
over here nodding my head as you're talking
it
because
is,
yes.
it's a mess, the
Mm-hmm.
struggles that we go
Mm-hmm.
through and the things that we have to reverse, right? Like so that we're able to fully walk into our purpose happy. So like when you started out this conversation, you say, I am good. Like that takes work for no
Yes.
matter what's going on for you to
Oh,
have,
yes.
like I could hear it in your voice. I know with that, like
When
I
I
am good
do you
despite
hear
whatever's
do
going
you
on. The
hear
peace
me?
that I have in this moment.
Yes.
Phew,
Yes. And
child.
I love that you said I could hear it in your voice because I think this also ties into we're talking about self-doubt. Let's talk a little bit on the other side really quick, right? Which is I think this ties into that difference between like when you're at a place where you feel confident and assured in yourself. When
Yes.
you do, people can hear it in your voice,
Absolutely.
right? They can see it in your eyes. And I think that sometimes we, for whatever reason, believe that self doubt and confidence are the only two opposites of each other, right?
Mm.
And it's like, I'm a very confident person now,
Yeah. Yeah.
now. And guess what? There are areas where I still struggle with self doubt,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Like
Yes.
it's not this thing where once you get rid of one, you're automatically in the other. That's not how it works, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And then what I was going to say too, with this whole thing of like confidence, and when you say you could hear it in my voice, when you're genuine, when your belief in yourself and your belief in the areas of growth for yourself, when those things are true, your expression of what used to be a strong doubt will be so assured
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
people will know, they will understand when you say I'm good or
Yeah.
I'm well, they will be
Yeah.
like, okay, she done been through some
Right.
things.
Yes.
People
Yes.
will know it's not an arrogance. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes women worry, oh, well, if I'm confident, they're going to think I'm arrogant. There is a
Mm-hmm.
big, big difference, right?
Yeah.
And when you're genuine, you often don't have to worry about that, because like I deal with that sometimes too. Like I get clients, and people seem to think like, oh, like nobody thinks my life is well, right? Because I'm very transparent about that. I've
Mm-hmm.
never ever like in my business purported to be perfect and all of this, none of this, right?
Right.
People know that I deal with some things because I don't speak up a lot about my personal things, right? My personal life is what it is to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But the difference before is that I was hiding it.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Now I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. One was, I mean, just lathered in self doubt. right? The self-doubt. Oh, what are people going to think? What are they going to think of me? What if they don't even know me and they form some kind of opinion based on
Yeah.
something that's not even correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if this? What if that? Oh, but what if? Oh, but what, right? All of those things just made the doubt just so prominent, right? And it's like now I've learned to embrace it as a part of my journey.
Yeah.
And I want that for so many other people. Like now, when I doubt, because I'm doing something right now that is like quite literally, probably like on the verge of being a miracle and like an absolute, like, fall out the sky, God, like, it's only God, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then like, but I haven't been able to double confirm it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, it's like, okay, but I only got one little piece of information, so maybe it's not that, right? Like
Yeah.
even the doubt when I know in my heart that this is what it is, sometimes when your mind can't conceptualize that this could actually be happening to you,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that is so easy for self doubt to start showing up. But it's like now, when I feel it, now I recognize it.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, wow. I'm like, wow, this doubt is starting to show its head, and let me see what is that about, right? But before, that was something that I would not have been able to handle that way. And so I'm just saying that to encourage, listeners, that if you are at a place where you have been navigating not
Mm-hmm.
navigating
Mm-hmm.
well the doubt, just know that there is so much light just beyond that. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
say on the other side of that,
Yeah.
because remember, they're two parts of the same whole, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? So, there is light just beyond that. And so for me, it's like learning to navigate the doubt, recognize it for what it is. And for me, addressing what is it that's making it feel that way. And
Yeah.
before, I would not have been present in mind enough to even understand that I needed to do that. But it
Mm-hmm.
comes with living the experience, you
Mm.
know?
I swear you were speaking to myself right now. And the whole time though, right? Because we already like you and I know what the questions are. Like I was like, we without even asking the question, if anybody's listening to these episodes, they would know the very first question is how self-doubt showed up in your journey. And you just answered that, right? Like, and I'm
My
sitting
bad.
over it. No, it's all good because that just lets you know, like these conversations, like you like the whole purpose of this is to be able to show that it shows up differently in everybody, and just having a regular conversation about where this all started, you end up naturally realizing that these are the things that happen, and that everybody's journey includes some sort of self-doubt, whether you want to admit it or not. there
Yes,
will
it does.
always be there will always be something. But one of the things that you said that resonated with me was when you said that the other side of self-doubt is confidence.
Mhm.
And when you are genuine and you are true in what it is that you believe, you can do things more confidently, even if this self-doubt is still present. And I think
Mhm.
that speaks to that definitely, it speaks to God, like being in you and working through you, because a lot of times we don't just hide from people, we hide from him. And it
Yeah.
ain't like he don't already know.
Yeah.
Like
Tell me
he
about
like,
it.
listen, sis, I can see you. Like you're not
Yes.
hiding, right? And
Yes.
so I think once we become, when we're honest with him, and then we're honest with ourselves, and we're intentionally doing the work for ourselves, not for everybody else, but you're
Mhm.
doing the work for yourself, then you can say, despite what I'm going through, despite my insecurities, despite my fears, despite my self-doubt, I'm good. Like I'm
Yes.
confident in who I am, because
Mhm.
some of the things that you're going to have doubt in, God is not going to take it away. Like we
Mhm.
want everything to be gone, and we
Mhm.
want, and with my air quotes, perfection.
Mhm.
That's He's not going to give you that, because that's how he uses you. So as long as you keep having those things, and he knows that that's what's pushing you forward, you're gonna keep it. Like you're just that it's the way it is. So
Yeah.
This,
And I wanted to say one additional thing with that too, Felicia,
uh-huh.
is when I know a lot of people struggle with the idea of confidence and like, what does that mean? And how do you get it? And how do you find it? 'Cause it's a very elusive word, right? And I
Yes.
know that for myself, when it comes to the kind of one other end of the doubt wheel, for me, it's like when I say that confidence, for me, what I'm saying is that feeling of assuredness. I feel very assured about myself.
Yeah.
I feel very assured about my intentions. I feel very assured about whose I am.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very assured about the fact that there is a calling on each of us. And if not, there would be no need for us to be here.
Come on,
So
you was
when I
preaching the
say
whole word.
confidence, I want people to get to that place where they start to feel assured in
Yeah.
who they are. Because for me, that's when I started slaying self doubt.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. You hit the nail on the head. That assurance of knowing those things, that you're right, that is exactly when the tables turn, because you, again, like I said earlier, you're every level that you are at, well, no matter what you do, as you continue to move up in God, in your purpose and where God wants you to be, you will face different types of things, and you will have doubt, and you will have things that will come up that could possibly throw your game off, because it's the same way God said, we all know that the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. So you
Mhm.
will have some opposition. That's not what's going to happen. But when you, like exactly what Keisha said, when you know whose you are, and
Mhm.
you are assured in his word, and
Yes.
you stand in that, you have that foundation, you can literally do anything. Like, you can
Yes.
do it with him. It's when we are trying to do it in our own strength, and we are
Absolutely.
trying to figure it out on our own, and we like, God, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go ahead and
Mhm.
I'm gonna help you out, and I'm gonna go over here
Mhm.
to do that. And he don't need your help, like,
Right.
in real life. So one of the questions that I did have for you is that, what have you learned about yourself doing this journey that you didn't know before?
That I had it right all along.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that has been one of the biggest, like, bombshells that was revealed to me on is that I had it right all along.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is this: who I was in the very beginning was just perfect.
Hmm.
The Keisha before she was taught that she was too loud, the Keisha that who she was before she was told that she talked too much, the Keisha that she was before she was told this, that, and the third, right?
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
Keisha who was super compassionate, kind-hearted, really truly spoke up for others because she believed in having the best. She believed in the best for everyone. She had it right all along.
Yeah.
Before she was taught to conform, before standards, other people's standards were put on her life,
Mm.
who I was right all along. And I have spent the latter part of my journey unboxing,
Mm.
undoing, unlearning, unbeing taught so many things
Yeah.
that were never aligned for me.
Mm.
I know, and this is what I talk about with that whole thing about confidence. It's not confidence, it is I am assured
Yeah.
that who I am and have always been at my core is exactly who I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that allows me to show up and people see it as confidence. That's what allows me to step into a room and people feel it as confidence, even if I don't feel it as that. I step into a room feeling assured
Yeah.
that I'm here for a reason,
Yeah.
that I have value to bring to the table.
Mm.
And so that I had it right all along. Who I was right from the beginning.
That is a whole word right there. That is a whole word right there because we have a tendency to try to change everything to conform, like you said. And the word says, do not conform to the
Mm-hmm.
things of this world. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And we do our very best to be like, oh, okay, so let me do it this way and let me try to figure it out. But when it all comes down and you walk in your purpose, you are just you. As I've
Yep.
been doing this, been on this slant self-doubt journey and trying to figure out all the things, and even, people who know my story, and when I started this, I was like, well, Lord, I'll do it later because I haven't really slayed my self-doubt. And it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until he was like, yeah, that's the whole point. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to do.
I can relate to that one.
This is a
Yes,
journey, and
ma'am.
so you have to show people. And it was just like, I don't, I still felt uncomfortable, I still felt nervous. And honestly, it wasn't until I was able to admit to myself and to those who were a part of who had been a part of this journey with me, what my biggest insecurity was and what it was that I was dealing with, and how I saw myself, right? And what that was is that it freed me from it. It freed me
Yes.
from that self-doubt, because at that point it no longer had a hold on me. It no
Yes.
longer was keeping me boxed in. So when you say unboxing, some of that
Mm-hmm.
is taking the things that people have said or what you say about yourself, and you canceling that out. Like write it down, burn it, throw it
Mm-hmm.
away, whatever it is. But you say, that's not who I am. I'm not defined by that thing. And even if that is true, right? Even if that is true, I'm still purpose to do his work.
Yes.
That doesn't disqualify me. It actually qualifies me
That's
because I'm
exactly
not
what I was
perfect.
you I was yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, it actually
Yes, you got the
qualifies
amen
me.
choir over here. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And
Yes.
so it's so is this is so important, especially during this time and like all the things that we've gone through this year. um for me, it's been just a joy to like talk to so many other women who have had struggles like me in a different way, and be able to see that it's so many of us, right? So many of us who
Mm-hmm.
struggle with just coming into our own. And once you break free of that, we're able to walk in. That's why I said there's a peace that surpasses all understanding. Like nobody can tell you anything because like your God qualified you. He called you. He's told you that this is what you're supposed to do. Can't nobody touch that.
You
Like,
know that you know that you know, and you are secure in that knowing.
yes.
Even when others try to make it something it's not,
Mm-hmm.
and even when others, including sometimes family members,
Yep.
try to weaponize it against you. When
Yes.
you know, you have to hold on to that. You have to believe that it's true for you.
Yes, yes, that is such a word, Keisha. So let us talk about She Will Not Be Silenced. You got a podcast, you have a whole business around it, you have clients. Like,
Yes.
what does she tell us all about She Will Not Be Silenced? What all do you offer? How you like all the things.
So it's a little funny because I was listening to what you said just recently here about your slaying self-doubt journey, and how you were like, well, I know I haven't actually slayed it all the way yet, right? How am I gonna do, and it's like, no, this is actually a part of the journey to making that happen.
Yeah.
That was nearly identical to my She Will Not Be Silenced. So She Will Not Be Silenced is it's a podcast. She Will Not Be Silenced is, first of all, it's my core.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I talk about it is through the She Will Not Be Silenced podcast. It was something that I talked about for years.
Mm,
4 years. Oh, I want to do this and that and whatever.
yeah.
Okay. And then I'm like, well, I mean, the name came, I was like, I knew exactly what it needed to be called. I knew all of that. And I'm like, but hold up. Like I barely even like speak up publicly online about, oh, how am I going to have this thing about She Will Not Be Silenced when it's like it was like, nope, this is exactly why you need to do it, because this is actually going to be the journey that's going to provide the healing that
Mm,
you need to be a vessel for others. And when I tell you, doing the podcast, right, specifically, opened up so many things for me because it made me deal with one of my biggest self-doubt challenges that I've had my whole life, not being able to control the narrative of what other people think.
Mm.
And the podcast accomplished that because it was a one-way conversation.
Yes. Listen.
All they could do was hear me talk.
Mm.
I was not talking back with them. I wasn't able to ask them, well, did you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
I wasn't able, I had to just say my piece and trust, right, that it would be received in the way that it was designed and spoken, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had no control. I couldn't control the narrative. I could not control what anybody thought about me after they
Mm.
listened to anything I said.
Mm.
And that was my biggest self-doubt challenge throughout my whole life. Is I what I could, cause if I can hear what you're concerned about, I can tell you, well, no, 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 you misunderstood.
Right.
Or
Right.
no, no,
Right.
I couldn't do that on the podcast, right? And so that journey, it's quite funny to me. I think it's hilarious. Like used to say, like, you want to make God laugh, give him a plan, kind of thing, right?
Yes.
I'm like, my biggest issue is what other people think, and here I am, literally on a platform that I don't have a clue what people think and can't do a thing about it. All I can
Yes.
do is show up and deliver. And so the podcast is a leadership podcast, but we talk about all life issues that women, especially women leaders, navigate, from dealing with narcissism to imposter syndrome
Mm.
to blending your faith, boldly blending your faith with your business,
Mm-hmm.
to dealing with the self-talk, the self-doubt, all of the things that come up on your journey. The self-silencing is a big one,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Learning to find your voice. And so the things that we talk about are the things that I navigate with clients who come and work with me. In my consulting business, my She Will Not Be Silenced clients come to me, and I work with executive women, women who are in high visibility leadership roles, or they're transitioning
Mm.
into high visibility leadership roles.
Mm-hmm.
And they are people who are often very private in their personal life, and they're coming up to a really critical point in their journey, in their professional journey, where they now have to be more prominent than what they may have liked to in the past. And so learning how to be fully who you are without apology,
Mm.
and in a way that is appropriate for the business you're in, the career path you're going. I am not a fan of, even if she will not be silent, she will not be silenced does not mean say what you want when you want.
Right. 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 Yeah.
There are
There's a time and a
levels.
place.
Yes, exactly. There are levels of appropriateness. There are certain things that are appropriate to say in a different way depending on the room you're in.
Yeah.
And so I work with clients to learn to really rediscover their voices. And it can be helping them to find their voice in the boardroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be helping them to find their voices just in the workplace. Sometimes we deal with the family issues, finding your voice in your family, because sometimes family members feel like they can just run all over you,
Child.
right? It's learning to not be silenced, not allow other people to silence you. It's about being able to share your political views, your personal views, the causes that matter to you, and it all makes sense. It
Yeah.
all sounds like you. And so we deal with all things finding your voice, ensuring that others are not allowed to silence you,
Mm.
and really helping women to break through all of the glass ceilings in their life, helping women to uncover their $1 million stories, because my clients are dealing with stigmas and stereotypes. Even though they're executives, it might be a relationship that people may not agree with. It may be
Yeah.
something in their upbringing. It may be their religious beliefs, whatever it is. I help them to navigate the stereotypes, the stigmas, and other people's opinions in a way to where it rolls off their back like water, just like in the shower, and water just rolls off of you. And
Mm,
they come out feeling like they had it right all along. It's so much undoing and rediscovering and giving of permission,
mm.
right? We sometimes we forget that we have permission to be who we were in the beginning, right? And
Yes.
so it has a lot to do with that, and it's work that I am just passionate about, not only because I have some expertise in it, but because I lived this journey
Yeah.
my entire life. And so
Yeah.
being able to come at it, in those perspectives, but in a nutshell, there we go.
No, yeah, that is amazing. Like as you were talking, I definitely thought about some women that I would, that I've crossed paths with in my corporate career that, especially as an African American
Mhm.
woman, when you're in these leadership positions, sometimes feel like like the job was given to you, right? Not
Yes.
like you earned it, right? Like you
Yes.
know what you do, but that's how
Mhm.
they treat you. Like,
Yes.
okay, you just here so we can meet our quota, and then
Yep.
they
All
don't allow.
diversity quota.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
they that way you don't, but you ain't supposed to say nothing. You're not supposed to have no views. You're not
Mhm.
supposed to, and when I think about that, like how many people sit in meetings and don't say anything, and they have the idea that they have the solution, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And they don't say it because it could be doubt, it could be that their voice has been silenced in other areas, and giving them, like you said, the permission to be able to speak up and do it unapologetically is so powerful because you're right, we on podcast, we have the freedom to say whatever we want without nobody
Mhm.
saying nothing, right? So
Mhm.
there's
Right.
no censorship, there's no
Yes.
me being like, I need to make sure that my boss don't hear this. I am my boss,
Mhm.
okay? I don't have
Yes.
to
Uh-huh.
I don't have to
Uh-huh.
worry about none of that. But there's people who, as we talked about in the beginning, who are wearing a daily mask and it's
Yes.
draining them. And even
Mhm.
during this season of all that we have gone through, the social unrest, the pandemic, all of that, like outweighs heavily so much on people. And I've been having so many conversations about emotional exhaustion and just
Yes.
people, they they tired. Like
Mhm.
people is tired and they don't know, but it's because you've been pretending to be somebody that you not. Like like it's draining. It's literally draining and killing people because they are the stress of it all. And if you had the space and I think that what I love about these collaborations, especially when I'm talking to somebody like you who we're kind of in the same space, right? we
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
we are creating space for people to become who they are. We are
Yes.
creating space for people to be able to say, enough is enough. I'm ready for what's next. But in order for me to do that, I have to take this mask off. I have to stop pretending that I'm not who God says I am. And also not be afraid of the consequences because somebody might like the real you and you may
Mhm.
still also keep your job and you may
Mhm.
have to, there may be some, like you say, you can't be in there saying anything you want
Mhm.
or all
Mhm.
willy-nilly or nothing, but you need to speak up. You need to say your piece. You need to get that off your chest because all you do when you do that, you just keep pushing yourself further back and you continue to hide and nobody's going to see you if you don't say nothing.
I
And
completely agree. And one thing I want to add to that, Felicia, is I think a lot of people, rightfully, in my opinion, get worried about, oh, are they going to like who I am if I'm just who I am, right?
yes.
This is why I think consulting and coaching and mentorship is so important
Mm-hmm.
because, to be honest, who you naturally are probably is not appropriate for that setting, right?
Right, right,
But
right.
there is such a thing as leadership development,
Mm-hmm.
refinement, cultivation. That's the point.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, okay, I'm taking off this mask and I'm just going to be who I am. That's
Right.
wrong,
Yeah.
right? Learn if you are a little bit insecure and unsure, getting to some leadership development. They'll
Mm-hmm.
help you be exactly who you are in the way that is exactly right. And you may not even know what that is yet,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Invest in developing and refining the real you.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people think the real me is just who I show up as. No, because you're showing up as all of the standards, expectations, stereotypes, all of the traumas, insecure. You're showing up as all of
Yep.
that right now. All of that is a part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting into some development, refinement is important, especially when it comes to slaying self doubt, especially when it comes to being a leader and someone with influence, someone with God influence,
Yes.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
Someone with calling and dimension. You have to be refined, a refined version of who you are, because that's the real you.
Yes. No, that right there was a whole word because and a lot of times we tend to shy away from those things. And I remember being in that space where I was like, I wanted to be a better leader, right? I didn't really know how, certain places, the organization I was working for at the time, they did have, they had mandatory things we had to go to, right? And it was, I would go, but I would kind of go like, here we go again. Oh, but I got a
Mm-hmm.
day, whatever. But once I really start listening to what they were saying and realized, like, okay, wait a minute, this is not just about the work. This is about me. This is about things that how I feel about me, how I take
Mm-hmm.
care of me, how my self-doubt shows up about me is reflective in my work. That may be the
Yes.
reason why I won't reprimand the person that I feel like I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to make them feel bad, right?
Yes.
That's the reason why I won't, discipline the young lady who is late every single day. And you're
Mm-hmm.
like, but I understand her situation. And you put it, that's the reason why I'm not doing my job to its full capacity,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm worried about what people are going to think.
Yes.
But it's your job. This
Yes.
is your job to manage and lead them, and you're not doing a good job of that. So no, that what right there was definitely that resonated with me, because I'm like, I have been there and I know exactly what that looks like. Keisha,
Yes.
this.
And if you're doing your job and you're afraid to reprimand or call people to the carpet, then just if that's you, that is an opportunity to help them
Mm-hmm.
develop and refine. So you be the vessel that sets the standard for that rather than seeing it as something that they're going to be judgmental about. You
Yeah.
have the opportunity to flip that directly on its head.
Yeah, no, that is so true, and that's exactly what happened once I got it together, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, I see what I need to do now.
Mm-hmm.
This is less about me. I mean, less about them and more about me." And I really had to just kind of change things up. So by the time I got to the end of it, I was a beast at it. So
Yes.
that was great. But Keisha, this has been such a great conversation. I am so grateful that you agreed to be on the show. This was exactly what I needed right now. And I know I'm
Oh,
always
yes.
very clear about, who it is that I get connected with and who it is that I do these episodes with. And they have to be um like they have to be purposeful, and it has
Yes.
to make sense, right? And so
Mhm.
that's why I was like, we can't leave this year without doing it.
Yes.
I can't listen. I don't know what the Lord gonna tell me to do
I
next.
was willing. Mhm.
I was like, he told me to do this. I look at listen, I done been out of order with him
Yes.
way too many times.
Oh,
Nope, I'm
yeah.
gonna just keep it going. So how
Guilty.
listen, how can people connect with you if they are ready to start this journey of not being silenced anymore? If they're ready to really figure out what it is about them that is keeping them from being their most authentic self, how can they get in contact with you and your services?
Absolutely. So, the best way is to go to keishashields.com. From there, you can go wherever you need to. So, for example, I recommend that you start with the podcast, right? Listen to some episodes, allow it to feed your spirit, allow it to provide nourishment and encouragement for yourself. It's something that doesn't cost you a thing. Go to navigate to the podcast link, or you can go into your app store and get the She Will Not Be Silenced podcast. But go to the website, KeishaShields.com, navigate to the podcast section, and just feed yourself. From there, you can also watch me on my videos on YouTube. If you click on my Key TV, you'll find it on my website. And then if you want to learn more about my services and maybe connect with me, you can do all of that from there. So the best thing is to go to KeishaShields.com, and you can find me on social at Keisha P Shields on all the platforms have the same username. So at Keisha P as in Papa Shields.
Nice. Well, all of that information will be in the show notes. Thank you so much, Keisha. I truly appreciate it. This was
Felicia, for having me.
definitely a blessing. I know someone is getting some confirmation from this whole conversation, and I'm grateful to just be doing this work, because we out here changing lives, sis. That's what we doing.
Absolutely. And I'm wishing the best of everyone in their journeys to continue to slay self-doubt.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We end every episode with the serenity prayer, and it goes as follows. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, y'all, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review. Remember to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow me at Slaying Self-Doubt. Oh, wait, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel and watch this episode, and remember to press the subscribe button. Until next week, see ya.